Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of Market Monday. Today we're going to talk about the Pro Tour. Now the Pro Tour is going to offer us this little window of opportunity to both buy and sell cards. After the conclusion of the Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad, Dragons of Tarkir and Origins will be at some of their cards at the last time they'll be at their highs. After that, that's when vendors start to sell out of cards. So it's that last little rush of sales, and they all start competing with each other. And the prices, even if the card sees tons of play, the prices will continue to go down. We saw this with cards like Siege Rhino and like Crackling Doom, cards that spiked right after the last Pro Tour or the last rotation set coming in, Battle for Zendikar, Oath of the Gatewatch coming in, and then they steadily declined until they rotated. So we're going to check out, I talked about that last week, why I thought that Secure the Waste and Archangel of Ties, you might as well get out of them, and so far it's pretty right. It's been a week since then, and they haven't gone up from when I said to sell. In fact, Secure the Waste has fallen quite a bit, and Archangel of Ties is flattened out. So we're going to focus on a little bit of those cards. We're just going to go over just the different decks. I think we have a pretty good metagame established now with two of these. We have the Star City Games Open and the Star City Games Invitational, and I think that now we have enough data to try to recognize a metagame here. So the first deck that is really just taking it by storm is Bant Company. So Bant Company is the deck to beat. We might see a lot of the Pro Tour decks. So it's almost like, that's the definition of a metagame. A metagame was established back during chess. The term has been around for hundreds of years, where if your opponent's going to do a strategy, you're going to do a strategy to counter that strategy. But maybe it's a better idea to play the strategy that counters the strategy that counters the strategy. So in Magic, this is what a lot of Pro Tour players do when they try to analyze the metagame, is do I play A, the number one deck, or B, do I play the deck that beats the number one deck, or C, do I try to next level and play the deck that beats the best deck? So I'm under the impression that Bant Company, a lot of players will play it because it's the safe route. It doesn't have any holes in its gameplay. In fact, when Bounding Krasis was spoiled, ever since this card was spoiled, I really wanted to go a blue-green just flash deck, and I still think that that's easy to build. We have the Void Grafter that's in the colors, and we have two Eldrazi. There's an Eldrazi that's a 2/1 flash now with Rattle Chains. It's a 2/1 flash flyer for just 2 mana. So I'm thinking if blue gets a few better tempo cards, you don't even need to go into the Collective Company shell. You can just purely just go into the blue-green tempo, and those have always traditionally been very, very powerful decks. But so Bant Company is here to stay. So I think that there are some investment opportunities. Right now, I think the best one that I think is criminally low is going to be the Dromoka's Command. Now, this was printed, I believe, in an event deck. So that's what's keeping this card down. I think it was an event deck with Siege Rhino. Correct me if I'm wrong, where this was, or was this one in the Jam Pact one that had the 2 Mythics in the event deck? So that's why you saw it plummet in price. But it's starting to recover, and it is an extremely powerful card in the metagame right now. There's a ton of enchantments that are worth killing. If Sphinx's Tutelage is going to start seeing a big piece in the metagame again, Dromoka's Command is going to be a powerhouse against that deck because it kills their win condition. There are cards like Silk Wrap that are starting to see a ton of play again that Dromoka's Command just kills. And then if we see this, it's a nice little counter for Radiant Flames, which is one of the problematic cards on Kozilek's Return as well, that wipe your board. I guess this deck doesn't care as much about Kozilek's Return. That's what makes Bant Company a little bit better than like Humans, is a lot of the cards here have the toughness. Like if Tyler's Tracker just gets a clue, Sacrifice, it's going to be a 3 toughness. Reflector Mage is a 3 toughness. The Bounding Krasis is a 3 toughness. The Sylvan Advocate's a 3 toughness. And the Duskwall Recruiter, if it is flipped, is a 3 toughness. So a lot of times it can just dodge that Kozilek's Return. But Radiant Flames can still kill most of them. So Dromoka's Command is just a natural defense against that. Also, Collective Company is great coming back from board wipes. There's also one of Ojidai's Command, but I don't think a one of is enough to justify a price increase. Plus this card was the buy a box promo at the time. Lumbering Falls could see a spike if these decks continue to put forward, and we're starting to see it go up a little bit. But it was in a heavily open set with a Battle for Zendikar. Battle for Zendikar has flattened out, so now the prices are starting to increase on some of these staples. So a card like Lumbering Falls, I think, would be the other pick that I might look at to invest in. We're also starting to see like cards like Prairie Stream. People are starting to figure out that Prairie Stream might be better than Port Town in decks like this. Just 2 basic lands is easier than just revealing either a plains or an island. You can see this deck is only running a few of each. So the Port Town is most likely going to come into play tapped. And so they're going back to the Canopy Vistas, the Prairie Stream, what do they call those? The Battle Lands. Declaration to Stone. Here's another interesting card. This card is insanely good in the format right now. I think it's pretty high, though, still. I don't think that rares are going to be able to hold above $10 price tag in Shadows of Innistrad. Shadows of Innistrad seems to be just a knockout of the park in terms of value and in terms of just playable cards. So we're going to have people continue to buy this set for months to come until the next set comes out, and then it's still going to be drafted with the next Eldritch Moon. So I think that if I were to pick any card out of Bant Company to invest in Pro Tour, it would be Dromoka's Command. I think it's got the best ability to go up. With a honorable mention here to Sylvan Advocate, this could be your next like Hangerback Walker. It was in a set that in Oath of the Gatewatch, which is a smaller set, didn't get open as much as Battle for Zendikar. There still is the full art expeditions in the Oath of the Gatewatch, so people are going to continue to what I call gamble with this set to try to open up those foil wastelands. So that just brings down the prices of everything. But you can see the trajectory of the Sylvan Advocate continues to go up. This card is seeing play in Modern as well, so it's definitely powerful enough, and is going to be a staple in Standard for quite some time. Let's go back. So let's go back to the metagame here. The next one is just human variants. The human variants, the card that is already starting to spike is Knight of the White Orchard. This has, I believe, 3 printings now with Knight of the White Orchard. So yes, it's a dual deck, the Shards of Alara, and now Origins. And you can see the price is just going up, up, up. It is really good in, they're using it in Red-White Exile or Flicker. They're also using this card in even some black-white, just mid-range type decks, just because it's a nice little drop. It's very anti-aggro as well as aggro because it can get you a land and put out a first strike creature to first strike down any sort of attacker. So it's a very popular. It's kind of fills the same role as Sylvan Advocate. It can either be the aggressive card or it can be the roadblock card. How much does this card have to grow? I'm not quite sure it has much at all. Even though Origins, a dual deck, and Shards of Alara, that's actually there's probably less of these out here than any rare in Shadows over Innistrad or Battle for Zendikar. I think that typically, like the core sets or Origins are not nearly opened as much, but this Origins might be an exception because of Jace and now a few other cards that have spiked in value. So I think that Knight of the White Orchards can continue to be open just for people that are basically gambling for Jaces. And so that's going to put a little bit of a ceiling on the Knight of the White Orchard. But I think that out of all the humans one, it's probably the best target. I think it still has a little bit of room to grow. Keep in mind, though, right after the Pro Tour, you need to sell these cards. They'll start to go down. We'll look at Seed Rhino here in a second, and I'll show you exactly the trajectory after the set is released and then the cards go down. Now, I guess you do have a tiny bit of a window of opportunity when the next set after this one is released. Sometimes cards spike again. But I would say just if you're looking to manage your collection, if you're looking to get the most value out of it, it will be after this weekend to start selling off all of your Oath or all of your Origins and all of your Dragons of Tarkir cards. Valley's Lieutenant, this was the card that I picked as the sleeper card out of the Shadows of Innistrad, and it was just too powerful not to go up. It was $2, I believe, at its release. Let's just look at its little price trajectory here. Yeah, it was all the way down to $2. I knew I should have invested a ton of these because I was wanting to pick these up to put in a Collected Humans deck. You can actually look at my channel. I've got a Collected Humans from Modern, and it's a powerhouse in that deck. So I love Valley's Lieutenant. It's got some Modern playability to it. It's got a lot of casual appeal, and I'm going to build another Norwin the Wary deck with Valley's Lieutenant and the Champion of the Parish. I think it's quite funny with Norin. I keep bouncing back Norin. This basically just becomes your second Champion of the Parish that actually gives other cards +1/+1 other humans that you have. So all your Soul Sisters get bigger when you throw out this Thalia's Lieutenant. Okay, so let's go back to the deck list. I think that like Council's Lieutenant's an uncommon, so is Reflector Mage. Both those have been going up. The Throbbing Inspector is a common, so none of those really have much room to grow. I've seen some other versions not use Archangel of Tides. In fact, let's look for, I think it's just mono white humans, that they go more aggressive than this little build. Silk Wrap's an uncommon. Always watching, I think might have some room to grow. People are starting to play. I've seen as many as 4 of in the deck. It has pretty good synergy with Archangel of Tides. Archangel of Tides is just starting to lose popularity, as I thought. It's just a 4 of in a deck is really, really high. You only need 1 out, and it's a really high curve topper for the deck. You never want to see 2 in your opening hand, and so the 4 ofs are usually relegated for these 1-drops. I'm surprised this actually isn't using more 1-drops in this white humans. Let's try to look at some other white humans here. Yeah, this one's using more of like the Dragon Hunter and the Kytheon. Kytheon has been going up quite a bit in the past few days, but I think that it's going to hit its ceiling here, as it is an Origins card with a Jace in the set. And it usually is no more than a 3 of, just because Legendary is tough with a 1-drop. People are starting to figure that out, that you can't, it's not the same as Dragon Hunter. You can't go first turn Dragon Hunter and second turn drop 2 more Dragon Hunters. If you have double Kytheons in your opening hand, you're kind of stuck not being able to play them. You need Gideon to flip, and then you can put another one out and then just hope that it doesn't flip, as then it's going to, you can only keep 1 of your Planeswalkers. So this one's very similar, though. This one has Council's Lieutenant, Night Owl Archer, Thalia's Lieutenant. That seems to be the core of the deck. There's a few other, though, that we can check out. Yeah, there was a nice one. Let's go back to this one. This one has an Expedition Envoy. I've seen a bunch of these decks run a full package of these, and this one is not an Archangel of Tides deck, so it's just going to opt in to run a bunch of the 1-drops. So I like this deck a lot better, as it has a lot more synergy with Always Watching. I know Always Watching does work with Archangel of Tides, but if you're running Always Watching with a bunch of 1-drops, you can actually take out your opponent before the Archangel of Tides really matters. Alright, so let's go back to the metagame. Here's a white-black mid-range. This is another archetype that I think is here to stay. So let's pop it up here. And this one does run, this is a creatureless one. This is one that runs Secure the Waste. There's white-black Exile too. Hopefully we can look at a deck with that. There's Anguish Unmaking that is down to $5 and continues to go down. I think that Anguish Unmaking is pretty much going to be around $3, $4, $5 its entire time in Standard, just because I don't think we're going to see this card as a 4 of in many decks. The Lose 3 Life is a little bit awkward, as well as this can only go in a black and a white deck. But this is going to be heavy control. We have Grasp of Darkness, Declaration of Stones, Silk Wraps, Transgressor Mind, Ultimate Price, all of these. So this deck, Gideon could go up in value. I'm actually expecting Gideon to go up in value after the Pro Tour. I think 22-ish right now, $21, $22. I think this card is going to go back up to 25 and possibly up to 30, but we got to keep in mind this set was just insanely open. We have Obnixilis that's in here as well. This is very low. It's been going up lately. It's now up to $8 a piece, and other than that, there's not a lot of room for any of these cards to grow. Shambling Vent is a land that's only $5 that sees heavy play. We could see Shambling Vent go up in price. I think that would be the one I would target as Shambling Vent right before the Pro Tour, because if this wins, that's going to be a stable card that jumps up. Gideon will probably jump up, but I think that the Vent has a lot more room to grow than anything else in this deck, because everything else seems pretty high already. Possibly Languish, I think, is a powerhouse in the format with all these white aggro decks. Languish is the best way to clear the board. Comes out on turn 4, which is exactly when you want it to come out. It kills basically everything in the deck. Collected decks have ways to at least come back, but that mono white, they're down to just their Archangels if they're running Archangels, and Archangel is not going to get the job done against a deck that has a ton of ways to remove it. I think that Transgress the Mind is a pretty cool uncommon. It has been going up, though. Yeah, it has been slightly going up. This card, I think, is probably the best card, I'm going to say, in the format right now. As every deck, there are pivotal pieces. Like, this is going to be the Always Watching in the White Humans deck. This is going to be the Collected Company in the Bant Collected Company deck. Any sort of control deck that's going to get their Gideon or their Sorin, so their win condition. Love this card right now, and and exiles it, which is huge. Speaking of exile, I was taping a video and man, I started ranting. There is so much exile in the format. I am very sad because I'm trying to get a deck with what is the Stonehaven Outfitter, as well as like Zulaport Cutthroat, and there's a few other cards that trigger off dying, and man, everything is just getting Declaration of Stoned or Silk Wrapped, or nothing is dying. Everything is being exiled. It's super annoying. All right, so let's go back to the metagame. This is the one that I think has the most room to grow with a lot of the cards in here, which is this is actually a ramp deck. So let's pull up the ramp deck, which is green-red Eldrazi. I think Worldbreaker is actually criminally low for how much play it's seeing. It's $6.50 for a 4 of in a very popular deck. This is the card. This is the Mythic I would target like crazy. A lot of people the new Eldrazi was going to be banned in Modern, so you see this huge trajectory down. It almost lost, half its value it lost. But it was not a 4 of in Standard. In fact, it was only like a 1 of in any Standard deck at the time here. It is now a 4 of. There will be more pressure from Standard, from one deck in Standard, than just the one deck it was seeing in Modern. And I think this is going to double in value after the Pro Tour, after the green ramp wins the Pro Tour. I'm thinking it's the deck to beat right now. I think it has the best overall game plan against the rest of the decks. I think that the control decks are pretty decent against it. Aggro, there's not a lot of aggro decks that can outrace this deck, though, if they just get their nut draws. And I think that, I don't know, I'm calling this one to actually take the Pro Tour. That's my bet in the right hands. It's been doing quite well in a few of the dailies and the leagues, and I think even this, did it win the Star City Individual? Or the Star City Invitational? I can't remember if it did or not. But I think that the World Breaker list with the heavy World Breaker, heavy Ulamog is the one that I think is best positioned. Or what a lot of them are doing is just using the Sanctum of Ugin, which World Breaker does trigger to then go get you an Ulamog. So you destroy like a land, or it's going to be a artifact enchantment land that you get to destroy, usually a land. So you set your opponent back with World Breaker, and then Ulamog comes out next turn and destroys 2 more lands, and you have a 5/7 body and an Ulamog that is going to win the game. So this is kind of your little roadblock into your win condition. And you can see a lot of these decks. Yeah, this is the one that, this is a Star City Open that this deck took first place, and there was 4 World Breakers and 4 Ulamogs. So those are basically the 2 cards that I like. Let's just check out Ulamog here. Ulamog is now almost at its lowest of all time. This is always going to be a powerhouse. This is going to be a casual favorite for just forever. I use this in a ton of commander decks. Animar absolutely loves this card. This is basically my win condition in Animar, because once you finally get a way to bounce it back with like Cloudstone Curio, or I have a tons of ways just to recur Ulamog. If you have Animar on 10, you bounce Ulamog in another colorless card and exile all of your opponent's permanents. And I think that this is criminally low right now. I think that Ulamog will steady off around 25-ish. So it has some room to grow. I'm not a big fan of investing in Mythics, just because the $17 to $25 is actually just a slight increase compared to something like a rare going from $3 to $7 is such a better increase. Anything else out of the green? We have Nissa's Renewal that's very, very low. A lot of the decks are not using it though, but 45 cents for a rare that sees a 4 of. Man, this has a lot of room to grow. And has this deck never been... Am I missing something here? Was it in like an event deck or a pre-constructed deck? Someone tell me why Nissa's Renewal has never gone above 50 cents. There's got to be a reason for it. And I know Battle for Zendikar was just opened, but this has to be in like some sort of event deck. Someone in the comment section, let me know here. But if the trend continues, I think that now that this isn't being drafted and open, we'll start to see this card go up. We start to see cards go up anyway when new players get into the formats, and then they're like, oh, I didn't have Battle for Zendikar. They're not going to buy cards from, they're not going to buy packs from Battle for Zendikar, so they just pick up the pieces, and then we start to see these prices go up. So the Renewal is really good. Explosive Vegetation is very expensive at the moment. It's funny that this one out of Onslaught's actually cheaper now than the one out of Dragon's Dark Air. They're up to $1.50 now in Dragon's Dark Air. I don't know how much an uncommon has to room to grow, but this is a very, very popular casual card. Exposed Vegetation goes in so many commander decks. And then Oath of Nissa at $2.50 a piece. This sees modern play. That is a nice little target as well. I think the Oath of Nissa is going to stabilize around $4 when the dust clears. It goes in just so many decks. This deck, they just like it because it's going to go get your perfect card. It's either going to go get a land or a creature. So later game, it's not dead early game. You'll probably just cycle through until you get a land. But late game, this will help you get your Ulamog. Cinderglades, I think, are pretty low at $5 a piece. I think that they'll probably stabilize at $8, so I don't know if I'd quite invest in them. But the Shrine of the Forsaken Gods and the Sanctum of Ugin, again, if this is the deck to beat, if this one wins the Pro Tour, those are good cards at what, $1.25 a piece. These could go way up. Chandra, I think, has hit its top. Chandra is... Yeah, 25. I have a hard time seeing this card go. It's seeing a ton of play though in like the red-white exile decks. The black. There's a few black-red, like tempo-based decks that use Goblin Dark Dwellers, and yeah, I think that Chandra 25 though is pretty much in a set that has foil wastelands. This one's hard to call. This Chandra could continue to go up. I have a hard time seeing it go up past 30 though. It is, even though it does go in a lot of decks, it has a clear slot at 6 mana. It can't just go in any deck that throws red in. I think that's going to keep it back. Alright, so anything else in this deck? Thought-Knot Seer I also think is pretty criminally low at the moment. $8. It might, I think 8 though. This is a rare in a set. We just talked about how the set can only have a finite value and something has to give. And I think we saw Thought-Knot Seer give. And Reality Smashers start to go way down just because they're banned in Modern. The reason why this price is also going to be quite low is when people stockpile these cards, when people pick up their play sets because they were playing in another format, they already have them when they switch over to like Standard or switch back to Standard, and so they don't need to invest in them. So I think that's what's going to happen with Thought-Knot. It is seeing a ton of play right now in Standard. Alright, so let's go on to the next deck, which is going to be the white-black mid-range. We already saw the white-black mid-range. There's 2 of these. This one looks like it's going to be actually a creature-based one rather than a creature-less base. Wasteland Strangler. This card I like a ton. There is so much exile in the format. Everything is exile, exile, exile. And it's down to $1. It did see a lot of a jump growth because this was seeing play in like a Black Eldrazi deck in Modern. Then people decided that Black Eldrazi was not the right way to go, or kind of this processor Eldrazi. And then it started selling off even before the inevitable ban. But I think that this is probably one of my favorite cards in Standard now. Has so much synergy with Declaration of Stone. Comes out perfectly after Declaration of Stone and Transgress the Mind. And this, against an aggro deck, that means you kill one of their cards, possibly 2 of their cards, if they went a turn 1, 1-drop, turn 2, another one of the 1-drops. Declaration of Stone hits them both, and Wasteland Strangler hits their other 1-drop, or another problematic card. At a $1.15 that I think is going to be such a staple in the format, I would definitely target the Wasteland Stranglers. I would have loved to get in this at like the bulk rates, but this went all the way up to 3. I can see it going back up to 3. It is an Eldrazi, so it's suffering that people have stockpiled these cards. Matter Shaper, I actually don't like the card in the format just because we talked about how bad die effects are, and I'm telling you, I can't get Zulport Cutthroat to even trigger. That's how bad the format is now with Exile. I'll have to do a video and just show you how much Exile is in the damn format. Nothing is going to die. I mean, it does die in like combat, which I guess is exactly what this sort of strategy does want. It's just a 3/2 to chump block for 1 turn. You basically, but a lot of the cards actually have first strike. The humans, the Night of the White Orchard and the Council have first strike. The other cards can get above 4 with a Thalia's Lieutenant, like the Reflector Mage. Reflector Mage can actually just reflect this back. So I have a hard time. When I played this deck, even in the last rotation, it was still getting exiled through. It still gets hit by Silk Wrap, and it gets hit by the, what's the one? I can't think of the one. Complete Disregard. And it actually, it doesn't get exiled by like Warping Whale, another card that I found out exiles creatures. Warping Whale just exiled the Zulport Cutthroat when in a game I just played, and I was very, very unhappy. Anyway, so Archangel of Avacyn is definitely here to stay in these type of decks. Night of the White Orchard, I talked about. I really do like Wasteland Strangler. I don't like Matter Shaper as a long-term pickup. Much of the same, though. This is just going to run some roadblocks rather than the other white-black. mid-range type deck or white-black control. And now here's the white-black Eldrazi. This one we should see a lot of Wasteland Stranglers. Maybe there's more of in the sideboard. Yeah, there's going to be, not in this version, there's not another one in the sideboard, but this was just going to be trying to ramp into a Thought-Knot Seer, this particular deck. I like this deck a lot. Eldrazi Displacer can just continue to flicker Knight of the White Orchard and Archangel Avacyn, Thought-Knot Seer, and Wasteland Strangler. I'm a huge fan of picking up Eldrazi Displacers. I think it's one of the more interesting Eldrazi's. And at $3.50, this is a rare that I think can easily stabilize around $5 rather than $3.50. Again, it's a set with a lot of value in it. It's set with foil Wastelands, and just keep that in mind when you invest in the card. This is going to be much similar to all the other white-black lists. This one's just using Eldrazi Displacer as a flicker type card. Gideon's, Anguish and Makings, Transgress, Silk Wraps, Declaration Stone. We've all seen these in the other white-black lists. Now there's Mono Red Eldrazi. I've actually seen a lot of white decks splashing Eldrazi Displacer in this one, but this is just trying to curve into some Thought-Knot Seers and Reality Smashers. So Hedron Crawler, Hangerback Walker. I am not a fan of Hangerback Walker in the format. I have a hard time seeing this card die in the current metagame. We just looked at most of the removal spells in all of the decks, and there's nothing that's actually killing Hangerback Walker through traditional. I mean, it's going to get Anguish, it's going to get Silk Wrapped, it's going to get Declaration of Stone. In fact, Declaration of Stone can kill all the Thopters, and even though it gives a bunch of clue tokens that if you need to kill all the Thopters this weekend for lethal, that's the problem with the card. This one's going to run the Eldrazi Obligator and Thopter Engineer, so it's going to be just a lot of values through Thopters. This is another reason why I like Virulent Plague a lot, but this card this is a lot like the blue Eldrazi deck that we've been seeing, and now they've kind of transitioned over into red as they get some cool cards like Vile Aggregate rather than Ruinous, whatever the Ruinous Eldrazi, and then Disruptive Thought-Knot and finish off with Reality Smasher. I think Reality Smasher could have some room to grow as well. 5 Thought-Knot Seer and Reality Smasher, this is between 5 to 7 is probably where they're going to stabilize. A rare has to be very, very special to go above the $5 mark in a highly open set. Then we have another Chandra's Flamecaller, so this card is easily going to stabilize is $25 to $30 and whatnot. So there's nothing too interesting in this one. Thought-Knots, Reality Smashers, Pioneer Nalar. The sky would be the limit if this was not an intro pack. This is in an intro pack. Let me say it again. Pioneer Nalar is in an intro pack with an alternate art to it, I believe. And it's a foil in that intro pack. Yeah, it is, right? Yeah, I think so. Someone correct me in the comment section. We have a Blu-ray Control. This has been getting a lot of video time anyway. This is going to be a Sphinx's Tutelage deck with the control. We've also seen the control list use the Pyromancer's Goggles, and then they just use a lot of burn spells that they're usually just used to kill off a creature. And this one is in all Sphinx's Tutelage. Sphinx's Tutelage is still around $1.50 a piece. It is an uncommon, but we could see this go up if these decks get really, really popular. I think Dromoka's Command is going to kind of keep this deck back because the number one deck having mainboarded hate against Sphinx's Tutelage is a little bit rough, and Kozilek's Return does a poor job, and all of these 1-mana spells, I think against like a Collected Company deck, do a poor job of taking out Bant. This deck's worst matchup is probably going to be Bant Company, I would assume. Yeah, it's just, to me, it doesn't seem like it can actually control the board enough before Bant Company just beats it down. Yeah, nothing too interesting here because a lot of the pieces in this deck are commons or like a Mythic that's $85, or we've already talked about Chandra Flamecaller. Then we have a mono white humans. We've already talked about this. Red-white Eldrazi is going to have very similar to the black-white Eldrazi and more Bant Company. So this should give you a gist of really what's out there. We've seen a few other decks here and there. I'm trying to look at the side here. There's like a black-blue control. I think this one's a black-blue Eldrazi. Yeah, so this deck still exists. This is a good budget deck just because, well, here's Thought-Knot Seer and Reality Smasher. They're pivotal pieces in this type of archetype. And I think this is the black-blue control that I thought was pretty cool. But a lot of these are just Crush of Tentacles. This is an extremely interesting card to me. This is one you need to keep your eye out, and if this starts to see a lot of video time, invest in this. This is the $1.50 Mythic that I think has an extremely powerful effect with Surge. There are so many cards, 1-drops you can cast and then just Surge this, and then you get to return all non-land permanents to his hand and put out an 8/8 blue octopus. Your opponent then has to kill your Crush of Tentacles, your octopus. That is a quick clock. That's a 3-turn clock with an 8/8 blue octopus, and it's returned everything else. So definitely keep your eye out on the Crush of Tentacles, and Languish is good in here. There's a Demonic Pact in here. This is another Mythic that's down to $1.50. This is a fun little Mythic. You could keep your eye out on Demonic Pact. I highly doubt it's going to go back up, and I hate to invest in any Origins cards that are just going to rotate. But Demonic Pact and Crush of Tentacles in this particular deck, if this starts to see a lot of, even if it doesn't even top 8 or a lot of day 2s, just if it gets a lot of video time with Crush of Tentacles crushing, that's the time to pull the trigger. Sunken Hollow is very low for this particular end, $4.50. I think all of these are going to stabilize between $6 to $8. So I think that this one has some room to grow. I really like Sunken Hollow as a spec target. This is my pick for a Mythic that has the ability to go up to $50. I think this is starting to see a ton of modern play, and it could be a standard powerhouse. It does very well in a control shell against anything that's hyper aggressive because it gives you a bunch of black zombies every time you kill off a creature. Unfortunately, again, though, a lot of the black removal is exile. So it's kind of a non-bow, is what we like to call it, or a non-synergy with the Cletus or Calitus. How do you even... anyone have a proper term to say this guy? So if you're going to be exiling it, you don't get your trigger. And right now we have like Ultimate Price that doesn't hit a lot of the colorless Eldrazi cards. It does have pretty decent synergy with the board wipes. Unfortunately, Languish kills it, and the -2/-2, what is it? The Flaming Tendrils exile, so that they don't die. So it's just crazy that all the less synergy the more synergies they could have if black actually went back to destroying things rather than exiling. I swear, someone do the math here. Is there more exile now in the format than there is destroy? I mean, relevant removal cards. I think there's going to be more exile than destroy effects. And let's see if anything else here just pops out. Nothing else too much. This is Dragonlord Silumgar. I like this for long-term spec. There's a lot of people that play this as a commander. There's Silumgar's command. It'll be a 3 of if this is going to be a 2 in the sideboard, 1 in the main board, 2 in the sideboard. So keep your eye on Silumgar's command. If this deck sees a lot of camera time, I would pull the trigger. People want to play black-blue control. There is just a whole demographic of Magic that loves black-blue control, and this, I think, is going to be their go-to deck. If it wins the Pro Tour or sees a lot of camera or top 8s or top 16s or a lot of them get into day 2, that'd be the time to invest. Anyway, we've got above 32 minutes here for the video. I'm just going to call it quits here. Hope I didn't ramble too much and gave you just my little opinions, ideas about cards to invest in. Just to wrap it up here, I keep an eye out on the green-red ramp and the blue-black control. I think everything else is established. Other than that, it's just Dromoka's command that I would invest in with Bant Company. I think Dromoka's command is the biggest sure bet right now. Pick up right now at $3.50. Sell at $6-ish after the Pro Tour is probably what it's going to hit in my opinion. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.